The conversation around the Chicago Bears right now naturally starts with Caleb Williams and the clear sense that this offseason represents another turning point in his development. What stands out immediately is how intentional he has been about identifying what needs to improve, especially when it comes to footwork and timing with his receivers. The plan is not just to show up when camp opens, but to build chemistry long before that, putting in work throughout the offseason so everyone is seeing the game through the same lens. That mindset alone says a lot about where he is mentally heading into the next phase of his career. One of the biggest themes with Caleb is self-awareness. When you look back at this season, you can see real growth across multiple areas, but also a clear understanding that consistency is now the separating factor. It is no longer about flashes or raw talent, because those are already there. It is about sustaining a level of play from the first snap to the last, week after week. Improving completion percentage, limiting negative plays, and knowing when not to force something are all parts of that evolution. There were throws over the course of the season that he is absolutely capable of making and simply did not hit, and that is where tightening the details becomes critical. Chemistry with the receiving group is another major piece of the puzzle. Drops were an issue at times, and while that is not solely on the quarterback, the best offenses tend to minimize those problems through trust and timing built well before the season begins. Every extra rep in the offseason matters, especially as Caleb continues to grow within Ben Johnson's system. This is still a relatively young partnership, and yet the progress from early in the season to the postseason was dramatic. From a mental and operational standpoint, the leap was obvious. The way the offense functioned early in the year compared to later on almost looked like two different units. The pre-snap operation improved significantly, with fewer penalties, more checks at the line of scrimmage, and a quarterback who was clearly taking ownership of what he was seeing. Caleb began canceling plays, adjusting protections, and making decisions with confidence, showing he was no longer just executing instructions, but truly running the offense. And it is worth remembering that all of this came in what was essentially his first year fully immersed in this scheme. Decision-making has largely been a strength, even when accounting for a few moments where his confidence in his arm talent led him to test windows that were not there. Those plays tend to stand out because they can be costly, but they do not define his overall performance. Most of the time, his eyes are in the right place, and he is reading coverage correctly. The next step is marrying those reads with even more precise accuracy, because when that comes together, the offense becomes far more dangerous. The improvement in the deep passing game was one of the most encouraging developments of the season. What had previously been one of the weaker areas of his game turned into a legitimate weapon. Downfield accuracy took a noticeable jump, leading to more explosive plays and forcing defenses to respect every level of the field. That ability to stretch coverage vertically changed how opponents approached the Bears and opened up opportunities elsewhere in the offense. Another area that cannot be overstated is sack avoidance. The difference from last season to this one was staggering. The pressure to sack rate dropped dramatically, and total sacks taken were cut by more than half. Some of that credit goes to a much improved defensive line, but a large portion belongs to Caleb himself. He showed better pocket awareness, quicker decision-making, and a stronger feel for when to escape or throw the ball away. Those are the kinds of improvements that often separate young quarterbacks from established ones. Leadership has also become a defining part of his growth. Early on, Caleb talked about listening, learning, and earning respect for veterans. As the season progressed, that respect clearly followed. Teammates began to respond to him as a leader, and his presence at the podium reflected someone who understood the responsibility that comes with being the face of the franchise. Demanding more from teammates, holding standards, and embracing that role is exactly what you want to see from a quarterback taken first overall. The reality is that the jump from year 1 to year 2 is real, and the next challenge is making a similar leap from year 2 to year 3. Footwork and accuracy are at the center of that focus, and those two areas are closely connected. Cleaner footwork leads to more consistent ball placement, and consistency is the final barrier between a talented quarterback and a true superstar. Caleb has shown the flashes and the ceiling, but sustaining that level is what ultimately defines greatness. That brings up the overtime interception that became such a talking point. From Caleb's perspective, it came down to a miscommunication and a read based on coverage. He trusted his receiver to flatten the route into open space, anticipating leverage against the safety. The throw was made to a spot, not necessarily to where the receiver was at that exact moment, and that is a sign of growth in itself. Quarterbacks at the highest level often throw with anticipation, trusting that their receiver will see the game the same way they do. In that moment, the trust simply did not pay off. The receiver attacked the route differently, the timing was off, and the defender made a great play on the ball. It is easy to point fingers in situations like that, but the reality is that these plays exist in a gray area. They're built on rules, reads, and feel, and sometimes those elements do not align perfectly. Caleb's willingness to take responsibility without deflecting blame says a lot about his maturity. It was an unfortunate outcome given the situation, because a completion there likely puts the Bears in position to win the game. Still, those reps matter. They become lessons that shape future decisions, especially in high-leverage moments. Sometimes the right read does not lead to the right result, and part of growth is learning when to trust it again and when to be more conservative. Beyond the on-field details, there's been a noticeable connection forming between Caleb, the city, and the organization. After a rocky start in previous seasons, the arrival of a new system and a clear developmental plan changed the entire trajectory. The city responded to his playmaking ability, his composure in big moments, and the sense that something special might be building. That kind of buy-in is not automatic, but it has been earned through performance and attitude. Caleb himself has spoken about his appreciation for his teammates, the coaching staff, and the opportunity to lead this group. That sense of belief, both from within the locker room and from the fan base, creates momentum. He is not a finished product yet, but the path is clear. Becoming more consistent from snap one through the final play of the game is the next challenge, and it is one he seems fully aware of as he prepares for the next chapter. The conversation then naturally shifts to the young weapons around Caleb, and Odunze sits right at the center of that discussion. There is a level of honesty in the way he evaluated his own season that stands out, especially for a player with his talent. He openly acknowledged that he did not impact games the way he believes he is capable of, and that mindset is often the starting point for real growth. Rather than deflecting or making excuses, the focus was on going back to the routine, reassessing habits, and figuring out what needs to change to reach the standard he expects from himself. From a talent perspective, there is no real debate. Rome has the physical profile, the route running ability, and the skills set to win in multiple ways. Early in the season, there were moments where it genuinely felt like he was on track to become one of the most dominant receivers in the league. He was separating, making difficult catches, and showing why he was viewed as such a special prospect. The momentum stalled. A few key mistakes crept in, confidence seemed to waver, and eventually the foot injury became part of the story. Playing through a stress fracture late in the season and into the postseason speaks volumes about his toughness, but it also explains some of the inconsistencies. That context does not erase critical drops in big moments, and Rome was clear about owning those plays. He knows those opportunities matter, especially on a team that is still learning how to close games at the highest level. Being accountable for those moments is part of becoming a player teammates can fully rely on. The decision not to undergo surgery will be something to monitor, but assuming the foot heals properly, there is still every reason to believe Rome can be a major piece of this offense moving forward. Consistency remains the key word, just as it does with Caleb. When those two are in sync and executing at a high level, it elevates the entire unit. Fewer missed opportunities on the outside make life easier for the quarterback, and that connection is something the organization is clearly counting on developing further. Up front, Darnell Wright represents one of the most encouraging success stories on the roster. His progression from his rookie season through this year has been steady and impressive, culminating in a level of play that firmly places him among the league's better right tackles. What makes his season even more remarkable is the fact that he played through significant injury, missing almost no time and showing the kind of toughness coaches value immensely. His fit in this offensive system has been seamless. In the run game, his size and athleticism allow him to move defenders and create lanes, while in pass protection, he has become increasingly reliable. That balance is not easy to find, especially at his position, and it is exactly why conversations about a contract extension feel inevitable. Players like that do not come cheap, but securing stability on the offensive line is a foundational move for any franchise with a young quarterback. The Bears have flexibility in how they approach his contract, with team control still in place, but the value of locking him in sooner rather than later is clear. Elite tackles are paid at a premium for a reason, and Wright has shown he belongs in that conversation. Looking back, the decision to draft him was questioned by some, but results have a way of clarifying those debates. He has not only justified the pick, he has exceeded expectations. Defensively, Jaquan Brisker's situation adds another layer of complexity to the offseason. His performance in the most recent game was outstanding, showing his physicality, instincts, and ability to impact plays all over the field. In moments like that, it is easy to see why he is valued within the locker room. At the same time, the reality of roster construction means difficult decisions are unavoidable. The secondary faces potential turnover, with multiple players approaching free agency and the need to balance experience, production, and speed. Brisker's comments reflected an awareness that nothing is guaranteed, and that understanding often brings a sense of finality to moments in a player's career. If that performance does end up being his last in a Bears uniform, it was one that showcased his best traits and competitive spirit. Speed on the back end has become an increasing priority, especially when facing offenses built around explosive, twitchy receivers. While the matchup against a less speed-dependent opponent played to Chicago's strengths, the broader landscape of the league demands defenders who can match pace and recover quickly. That reality will influence how the Bears allocate resources and which players they prioritize bringing back. Kevin Byard's presence complicates that equation further in a good way. His veteran leadership and ball production were among the highlights of the season, and his impact went beyond statistics. Leading the league in interceptions while providing stability and communication on the back end is no small feat. He consistently put himself in the right position, tackled well in space, and delivered in critical moments. There is also a broader implication to his comments about the quarterback position. Having a clear answer at quarterback changes how the league views a franchise. It becomes easier to attract talent, easier to retain veterans, and easier to build continuity. That sense that Chicago is becoming a destination again is tied directly to the belief in Caleb and the direction of the team. Ultimately, the Bears are at a crossroads that feels far more promising than it has in years. The foundation is there, with a young quarterback growing into leadership, key offensive pieces striving for consistency, and a roster that has begun to identify which players truly fit the vision moving forward. The decisions made this offseason will shape how quickly that potential turns into sustained success, and the margin between being close and being great will come down to how well these individual developments align as the next chapter begins. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. What began as a routine media appearance quickly turned into one of the most talked about whispers around the league, as Matthew Stafford's recent comments about the Bears sent an unexpected ripple through NFL circles. Nothing was announced, nothing confirmed, yet the tone and timing of his words were enough to ignite speculation far beyond what anyone anticipated. Stafford, known for his usually measured and diplomatic answers, appeared unusually reflective when the Bears came up. Instead of the standard praise or polite dismissal, he leaned into a description that many interpreted as layered and deliberate. He spoke about structure, identity, and a team that knows exactly what it wants to become, phrases that immediately caught the attention of analysts and fans alike. For some, it sounded like respect. For others, it felt like admiration bordering on something more intriguing. What truly fueled the rumor mill was the way Stafford paused before answering, choosing his words carefully, as if aware they might be dissected. Insiders have since suggested that the quarterback was not merely commenting on a rival, but subtly acknowledging a shift within the Bears organization that players around the league have started to notice. Whether that shift is cultural, tactical, or leadership-driven remains open to interpretation. Social media quickly amplified the moment, with fans debating whether Stafford's remarks hinted at future matchups carrying extra weight, or even a quiet fascination with what the Bears are building. Some went further, wondering if veteran quarterbacks like Stafford see elements in Chicago that resonate with their own career journeys. Of course, none of this has been substantiated. Stafford did not clarify his comments, nor did he walk them back. That silence has only added fuel to the speculation. In a league where every word is parsed and every pause analyzed, his reaction stands out precisely because it broke from expectation. For now, it remains just that, a rumor, a reading between the lines. But in the NFL, speculation often becomes the first chapter of a much bigger story, and Stafford's surprising take on the Bears may be one fans and insiders continue to revisit as the season unfolds. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.